In so many years of meeting HR folks, I have actually never asked them about their curriculum, right? Curriculum at B School is one of those things that has to be a base for you to know, without which you can't do anything more evolved. And if you don't know the base, very difficult for you to, kind of build on it. But I think the real learning happens in the industry.
How many people have you fired in your career?
First day that I had to do this on behalf of my organization, I went back home and cried. The second day I did this, I went back home and cried, right? And I just built some coping mechanisms to make sure that I am okay, right? My mental wellness is important, and that I'm okay. But my team around me, the people who surround me, realized that they have to hold me well, right? In this kind of a, because it's not like I want to fire people, right? It's a business requirement. It's a situation where a business has to go on, doesn't require certain roles. There are people in those roles, and how can you do the most inhumane thing as an HR in the most humane way? I think that was a differentiator. It was a problem that we were solving, that they are still solving. That is so amazing that it felt like it was the most enriching part of my career until my current job.
I have a lot of HR related questions, but let's first address what do you do in your current job and why did you move here?
When I met Anant, the ex-CEO of Myntra, and this is his venture, it's called Mensa Brands, he identified this problem that in the categories of fashion, apparel, beauty and personal care and home and furnishings, there is such a wide space in terms of brands within India, right? So for the population of the country, the number of brands in these three spaces, which are more than $100 million brand, are 25, right? With the amount of mobile and internet penetration, with the disposable income going up, etc., people want brands. All of you are here wearing brands, right? And there's this great opportunity to create brands from India, not just for India, but for the world, right? So kind of creating a tech-led house of brands, working with great founders, partnering with them to accelerate their brands to kind of creating breakout brands. So right now we have like 20 brands. We wish to be like a 50 to 70 brand kind of space.
So what is it that you do? I understand the business problem.
Yeah.
But what is it that you do now in this role? Do you work with all the 20 founders and their teams?
Yeah. Let's not look at 20 because it seems like a lot. Let's look at one founder, right? There's a founder selling casual shirts for men, right? And we have to grow this brand multiple X in the next couple of years. And what would it take, either at the founder's team or as central capabilities, for us to grow that? Will it take marketing, brand and performance marketing, social media marketing, or people, or finance capabilities, or operations? How do we get a central warehouse done? How do we do regional utilization? How do we do the best consumer experience? How do we do, make sure that we are legally compliant, so legal work, M&A, and build a tech, very, very good, best-in-class tech platform that can manage all of this in terms of data and insights. We try and kind of build teams around all of this. And then multiply that by 20, and then scaling up to 50.
Brilliant stuff. One question I have is, right now there is this general feeling that tech salaries have just completely exploded. People are rejecting 1.5 crore salaries for, because somebody is offering 2.5. How do you figure this ecosystem out? Like, how do you ensure that you are not losing people, also you are attracting the right kind of talent?
Like, if you know the answer, please tell me. But let me also make another light-hearted comment that if I quit my HR career now and start as a developer from scratch, in the next 5 years, if this goes like this, I will make more money than I'm making right now, right, as a developer, or like a data scientist or something like that. No, but on a serious note, look, there are organizations that for whom the main employer value proposition is money, right? And benefits and a comfortable job and status and a designation, right? And all of that, right? So I, I know that those organizations have to play this, just the money card, right? I don't want to do a plug for my organization, but hey, we are an 11-month-old organization. We are building something that will eventually be like a Unilever from India, house of brands, right? Unilever is not a brand, it's a house of brands. And we are solving this problem at scale, profitably, with tech as the main kind of enabler in this, right? The kind of problems that we are solving in tech is nobody's problem to solve, right? It's nobody's problem to solve because we are new to this industry. It's a new industry, right? So the problems that tech folks or data science folks or product folks would solve at our organization would be the first in the industry. And where they would be a couple of years down the line, if they do this well, will surpass any compensation negotiation that they will do at this organization. So people who join the organization don't join for compensation. It's magical, right? They join for the purpose, they join for the vision, they join for what this can be and what this can do to their careers a couple of years down the line. And obviously for very, very selfish wealth creation opportunities, right? If this organization does well, there's enough ESOPs, there's enough stake in the ground, you're an owner in the organization, and you will make wealth as the organization grows up, right? So it's a bit of a different problem. We are not attracting the kind of people who are looking to join for 100%, 120, 115% hikes, which are happening, by the way, FYI. They are joining for the joy of creation, the joy of creating an impact, the joy of...
So how do you communicate purpose? Like for example, if you were to like say consult us right now on stage, I'm taking free advice from you. Like we are trying to build an organization. And obviously, like, you know, we don't have money as the main draw. So what would you advise us and how would you communicate this purpose bit to attract the right kind of talent?
I think it comes from the top. It comes from what the business is trying to do, what are the problems that you're trying to solve, and over-communicate that everywhere, right? You put it on your website, put it on your LinkedIn page, put it on every job description, put it on every interview that you do as a founder, and just put it out there. You will automatically filter out the people who apply to you. You will dissuade them from coming to you. And hence the people who still come to you, even after reading all that, just absorb them, man. Even if they may not be the functional experts you know, that you want them to be, if they're coming for this purpose and the vision, they'll figure it out, right? And you can create this together. There is no such thing as the perfect candidate. There is no such thing as a perfect candidate. Just over-communicate your vision and you know what the problem is.
Are there examples of companies or founders who managed to communicate their purpose very well and have just on the strength of that attracted great talent? Are there any companies you look forward to either in India or abroad? Any case studies you come across?
Look, I can talk about the last two organizations that I've worked at, and this was very clear, right? In every conversation with every person that you speak at the organization, if you hear the same consistent message,
right,
then it becomes real for you, right? And there are so many folks, you know, who I interview because of my job that are working at organizations that I have not heard of, right? I have not heard of these names. But when I speak with them, I hear so much passion coming out of a problem that they want to solve. And obviously this is not coming from them. They've heard this enough times at their organization from their founders or their founding teams, etc., that they have realized that yes, this is a problem that we are solving together, right? And if that just happens for a month or a week or on one document, it's not enough, right? Unless you keep hearing the same thing about that organization's vision and the problem that you're trying to solve at every point that you encounter or you kind of consume that organization's content, it won't become real, right? So it can't be a tactical thing. It has to be something that you as founders truly believe in. And then you'll find people,
Okay, one question I have about the HR curriculum in various B schools, because you're obviously hiring people over the years as well, and you come across XLRI HR grads and TIS HR grads and MDI and SCM HRD, and obviously now a lot of the IIMs have it, an IIM Ranchi HR course, an IIM Indore HR course. And what is your read of the curriculum? Do you think it's good enough for people to actually build I mean, these days there are companies which are scaling up from being 0 to 1,000 employees in like 6 months. I don't know whether it's a good or a bad thing, but for sure there is an HR that is powering that. So do you think these curriculums are good enough to actually help people do that? And I mean, what are the pros and cons of people going through a HR program?
In so many years of meeting HR folks, I have actually never asked them about their curriculum, right? Curriculum at B school is one of those things that has to be a base for you to know, without which you can't do anything more evolved. And if you don't know the base, very difficult for you to, kind of build on it. But I think the real learning happens in the industry, right? So I learned algorithms back as an engineer, right? And data structures back as an engineer. I can still talk to you about algorithms, data structures, even though I may not know how to code in Java today, right? But if you show me a code, I'm sure I'll figure it out in the next 5 minutes, right? And the same is HR and curriculum, right? All the curriculums are designed enough to make sure that you have the right base, so that whatever work you need to do in the industry, you can build on it, right? And I think the main learning happens outside of class, in your peer groups. And in the previous talk, you spoke about what you think about people coming to B schools with no experience or with some experience. I'm being that guy who doesn't walk the talk, but I joined B school at like 1.5 years experience. But I really feel that if I were to do it again, I would do it with a little more experience, because I would be able to go in, add value to myself, add value to the peer group that I am a part of, and that is where the real learning comes from.
Just a plug from my side, we are doing a HR program which is suited for the new world, so to speak. And it's actually, we are working with the head of talent acquisition at one of the largest FMCG companies in the world, along with some people who are now in the industry and doing things that you are doing. And it's just like a program that we've launched in HR specifically to help ensure that the industry has enough people who are skilled in doing this new age, scaling up of companies and building these fast startups. So do have a look at that. There are a few introductory masterclasses that we are doing. I think one is happening in the end of April, and you'll get a flavor of that. Siddharth, now coming to the human aspect of this, and I think you definitely seem to have a lot of problem solve karna. So you have an engineer's lens to HR as well, right? So there are obviously things like empathy, compassion, and obviously COVID happened. How important is it to have that in an HR manager? Because it's hard to, no B school can teach you that, or no undergrad degree can give you that. And there is yet a human element. We talk about the Great Resignation, and we talk about a lot of people across the world not having got salaries for months, or getting great salary cuts, big salary cuts. So how do you ensure that you are able to develop that muscle as well, which is around being more humane?
I want to break a myth there, that all HR people are empathetic, all HR people are people.
Yeah, they are not, right?
Are people, or HR people, have great conversations, have great interviews. It's not true. You don't require to be a people person to be in HR, right? There are so many things in HR that you can do really well without being an extrovert or a people person, or really enjoying having conversations every day with everybody, right? You can be a compensation benefits expert, you can be a payroll expert, an operations expert, an HRMS expert, an analytics expert, without having an iota of, right, an extroversion. Having said that, right, most people that I have seen who kind of lead people organizations have all the hard skills and the soft skills of empathy, and I wouldn't say compassion, but just being able to put yourself in somebody else's shoes just comes up with a much better solution, 100% of the times, always, right? So I think HR is about really hard skills. Like, I think there isn't enough math skills in the HR community. Right? Let me just put it out there. I'm sorry, but like there isn't enough HR math skills. There isn't enough analytical ability. There isn't enough kind of problem-solving ability in general, right, in the industry. And I find that that is very important for an HR role, right? Because you're going to run with numbers. You're going to be arriving at dashboards and metrics, etc., to be able to tell a story that your soft skill can pick up and deliver well, right? So yes, I think to be an HR leader, beyond a certain point of operational ability, you need to have some of these, and they become differentiators. But you can be in HR if you're, let me put it this way. One of my ex-managers, who happened to be the CHRO of a company, once told me, so there's this thing called Hogan's Index. Look it up, right? HOGAN. And you have multiple things that you can evaluate, right? And one of them is extroversion and introversion, right? And I turned out to be like an 89 on the extroversion index, right? And then my manager sat me down and said, hey, you know, this does not mean that you will be a great HR person, right? Or you don't need to be an extrovert to be a great HR person. And then she said, I'm going to tell you something that you can't tell anybody with my name. And she said, I'm a 1 on the extroversion introversion index. So she is an extreme introvert. She said, if given the opportunity, I would curl up with a book inside a room alone for the weekend and not meet a single person, right? I'm such a big introvert. But you know what? My job requires me to be an extrovert. I have coping mechanisms where I can become an extrovert for the requirements of my job. It just takes more energy than an extrovert would take. I am not energized by people around me. And by the end of the day, I would be, I think, more tired than you would be. But I can do this. Like, I can have coping behaviors that can make me pull out some skills at work that are not innately me as a personality.
So let me ask you about some unpleasant things. How many people have you fired in your career?
I wouldn't put a number, but I've fired quite a few.
And did it affect you the first time you did that? Have you now become cold about this? I mean, I know this is like shot on camera, so even if you're cold, you can't say that.
No, I think it's a very important question. I'm going to be vulnerable and say that the first day that I had to do this on behalf of my organization, I went back home and cried. The second day I did this, I went back home and cried, right? And I just built some coping mechanisms to make sure that I am okay, right? My mental wellness is important, and that I'm okay. But you know, my team around me, the people who surround me, realized that they have to hold me well, right? In this kind of a, because it's not like I want to fire people, right? It's a business requirement. It's a situation where a business has to go on, doesn't require certain roles. There are people in those roles, and how can you do the most inhumane thing as an HR in the most humane way? I think that was a differentiator. I'm in touch with people who I had to let go, unfortunately, because of my role, at very, very good terms. They'd want to come back and work in the organizations that I've been in, right? And that tells me that maybe I did that thing for my organization, on behalf of my organization, in the most humane way that we could have done it, by understanding their personal circumstances, their family, what would happen, what would their next, kind of payslip check would come from, who is the family bread earner, is there a medical emergency, can we extend insurance beyond the last working date, etc., etc. And you do that right, as it were happening to you. It's all right. Like, it's part of your job. Every job has these parts, right? This is my part.
So Siddharth, what are your views on remote working versus going to office, hybrid working? I know we are still in the early days of the opening up, but any thoughts around this?
I've been working from office for the last many, many months. I can tell you that these are my opinions only, right? And they don't belong to my organization. But I can tell you that at startups, at least, at organizations that are growing more than 100% year on year, the amount of collaboration that you need, the kind of problems that you need to solve, if you get somebody on a call 3 hours later because their calendar wasn't available, it's kind of half a day of an impact that you have deferred, right? And so in my personal opinion, in the kind of problems that I'm trying to solve, with the kind of people that I'm trying to solve it with, I prefer being in person with them and completely being cognizant that there are people who have different needs, right? They have younger children. I have a 3-year-old toddler at home who is actually downstairs now. But you know, people have ailing parents. They have other needs, etc. And it's totally okay to take it as a case-by-case basis, right? But have the view that I am learning more at this organization when I am surrounded by people who are better than me. And if I'm not surrounded by those people, how am I even learning, right? And so for those reasons, personal opinion is that I want to be around people who are better than me every day at work so that I can grow, which is the motivation for me to be in my role. And so I think an in-person is better.
What are the things that are happening currently in your domain that not a lot of people are noticing, which you would want them to start noticing?
I have to be honest, I am not the expert on those things, right? A lot of things.
They are new, right? So obviously
a lot of things around data systems, data sciences, predictive analytics. How do you predict engagement? How do you predict retention? How do you attract the best talent using a set of metrics or psychometrics, using tools, that can predict this better than a half-hour interview where you're just asking, "Aap kahan se ho? Who's in your family? What's your salary?" Right? 10 minutes goes in that. And so there is this cutting-edge kind of work that's happening on the data side of things that I am not the expert on. But if someone were to come up with a course where you get to learn that along with your base that you learn from college, I think it would definitely give them an edge in today's environment.
Any specific scenario that you can paint of the future? Like you said, predictive analytics. I'm just trying to visualize what it could be like. Is it like, will we be able to predict that this guy is going to have a mental breakdown or a burnout, or that, like for example, one of the things that fascinates me is that there are sports teams who now have access to analytics where they're actually able to predict the peaks and troughs of a player even before the player knows or actually performs. So they're able to exactly transfer that player out of the club at the exact moment. Yaar, ab iska ho gaya. Or that, and obviously the best teams are supposed to be the ones who are able to manage this transition perfectly. Do you think that's happening in?
Yeah, it's happening as we speak. There are organizations that claim that their tools are able to predict people's behaviors, people's motivations much in advance, not so that you can fire them, but you can have a conversation with them. And I think till the time that this is a business about people, you can still get those cues, but you need to still have that conversation. And that's where you still need to have people like me and you, if you choose to be in this role. And HR is not a function. HR is a set of tools, skills that every manager need to have, right? So if you ever become a manager, right, in your lives, in whatever role, please become the HR manager for your team, right? It's much better that way. People want to come and talk to you about problems, not to some guy in some other function, right? If they can't approach you, if they think that you're not enabled enough or knowledgeable enough to solve their problem, that is when they have to come to me, right, to solve an HR problem. But the best organizations are where the manager is the HR person, right? And doesn't feel like this is somebody else's job and I won't do this because there's a different person who can do this. And one thing, and I know we're out of time, but one thing that you asked me about what's happening in my function that's really good, it's not really in my function. But I can tell you that the focus on the acknowledgement that mental wellness is a real thing, the acknowledgement that it leads to real problems, that you can identify problems before they occur, and that you can offer support and people can get better. That is a shift that has happened over the pandemic, and it's happened for the better, right? Because we are all now better for it, right?
Awesome. I'm going to throw open the floor. So, yeah, Divyanshu has been raising his hand for the last 2 sessions and we haven't given him a chance. We start with Divyanshu.
I want to know first, like you are a CHR right now at Mensa Brands. So you were earlier in D2C as well at Jivame. So like how you actually check the metrics at the end of month, ki are the people really productive? Because majorly business is dependent on the digital marketing only, right? So how you actually check ki are they really working for the like 6 hours or 8 hours?
The day you start thinking like you have to measure how many hours somebody put in work, I think it's already gone south, right? The day that you can operate from trust, hire the right people who can keep that trust up and, operate like they're the owners of the business. Even if they work 3 hours, I can assure you those 3 hours are better than somebody else's 9 hours who's just there because of the number of hours that they have to put in. So in my experience in working with startups, I can tell you that if you have to measure somebody's productivity, yes, productivity is important in terms of sales numbers, revenue, all of that. That is how money comes in and businesses are run.
In startups, when we are doing interviews, what weightage should be given to IQ versus EQ? I know IQ is very important, understanding the skill sets of a candidate. How important is EQ in terms of percentage?
Very broad, vague question that I cannot answer in 1 minute. But I would tell you, let's look at it with a specific role. If a role requires a very high IQ, individual contributor role, can perform alone without speaking to many people or influencing other people through their EQ, right? And that's all that you expect from them. For the time being, it's okay for somebody to have an high IQ and not high EQ. But if you're hiring for a managerial position, somebody who will manage people, manage their performance, grow them, mentor them, answer their questions, on any of that, right? You need EQ, right? And there, if you hire somebody who's a great high achiever, but they piss off people because they just don't know that they're pissing off people. And that is what low EQ actually means, right? They're rubbing people the wrong way without knowing that they're rubbing people the wrong way and that it's actually having real impacts on the other person. Then I think you need to balance out the IQ and EQ.
And through interviews, through virtual online meetings, how do you assess that EQ of a candidate?
It's experience. It's the kind of questions that you ask, the kind of responses that you get, the body language that you can assess, but also behavioral event interviews, right? So BEIs, look it up.
Yeah.
And so you can ask question. Okay, the premise of BEIs is that past performance is a great indicator of future performance,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So if you ask specific questions about what somebody specifically did in a role, right? If I ask Revati, have you had to let go of somebody, right? And
Right.
how did you do it? What was your approach, right? And
Yeah.
through that process, because you've actually done it, right? You can't fake it all the time, right?
Yeah.
Through that process, I would realize whether you just did it as a transaction
Yeah.
or you did it the right way, right? And you can't fake it, right? But if you're an experienced interviewer, you will be able to catch the nuances of the EQ through what the person is saying about the IQ related stuff, right? And so I think it's part gut, part experience, part empathy, part having high EQ yourself. I don't think a tool can help you with that.
Absolutely.
But I wanted to understand that, everybody is pretty replaceable these days. And the amount of people that are there and the amount of opportunities that are there, everybody is shifting in no time and there's no dearth of opportunities. Have you ever in your career as an HR tried to retain anybody for the certain skill sets that they possess? And if yes, then what were those hard or soft skill sets that made you feel that, no, I want this person to be here? Because if they leave, then I don't have, I'm missing out on something. So is there any skill set that they possessed?
You're asking the question to the right person and the wrong person at the same time. Because if you see my resume, the number of shifts that I have done, I wouldn't hire myself, right? If I receive my CV, I'll be like, hey, बहुत unstable profile hai bhaiya, right? But a lot of time, the retention conversations are about money, just pure tactical money, right? This is objective that I want to go to, X number of lakhs. If I do this simple math, if I do 50%, 50%, 50%, I'll get there in 3 years. Then if I were to do 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10% over 10 years, right? Do I want to get there in 3 years or do I want to get there in 10 years? And some folks are very, very clear and focused and not even like making shit up anymore, right, about this. But I would think that at least 1 in 2 conversations about retention is not about money at all. It's about them not getting something that they thought they would get in this role. It's either accountability or learning or respect, very basic things, or colleagues that they can learn from, or processes that they can learn from, or whatever it is, right? And sometimes if you peel the onion, just the first layer, you will see that it's compensation and say, I'm getting a 30% hike, 40% hike. And you can say, Arey, I can never match that salary anyway. I'm a startup, so jane do, right? You peel one more layer, right? And you will realize, why did the person ever update their resume in the first place? Before going to an interview where they got a 30% hike, right? And you peel another layer of the onion, you realize that there is something more about this that they wanted at this job that made them update their resume in the first place. And that is not money. Because they wouldn't be at your company in the first place if it was about money. Because you offered them the money and they accepted, right? So 1 in 2 cases, it's always not about the money. And then if you're able to build enough trust as either a manager or an HR person or whoever it is, or a mentor, you'll be able to identify that it's something that you can solve. It's always a manager or a peer or a resource that's not available or not enabled enough, not enough learning, monotony, toxic work environments, whatever it, lack of vision. There's so many things that are happening in an organization that are making people think, I thought this was something else, but I was wrong, right? And many times you can solve those problems with conversations, not with tools. And a lot of time that people stay back is at the exact same salary, while having a 30% higher compensation offer in the market. And so, I think have those conversations. Like, we always feel like, iske paas offer hai, ye to jayega, isko jane do, or notice period mein waisa bhi he's not going to be productive, so let it go. Like it's a, written off bad debt. But if you have that conversation, the person wants to stay back. Nobody asked him.
I just kind of have a personal question, not broad.
Yeah.
One thing is, I am an MBA aspirant and I'm still choosing which course to take in MBA if I go probably next year. And since you have taken HR and stuck to your decision, I was just gonna ask you, how do I get on to the decision to whether take HR or not?
At least the first step of the career is to look at the end game. What does the end game of this career look like?
First step of the career to le liya na, she came here.
Oh.
Most people, most of her peers are not doing what she's doing, which is that she's coming and listening to you.
True. I think the first step is looking at the end game, right? If the end game is a head of marketing, head of HR, head of finance, what is that role, right? When I was an MBA aspirant, I had no idea what an HR head did. Actually, I'm being very honest about it, right? Had I known, I would have been able to make my decision much better. It was such a gut decision for me back then, right? But you have opportunities of listening to people who are in those roles through these talks, through YouTube, through multiple channels, through their platform, that you know what that end game looks like. And if that attracts you, if those kind of problems is something that you end up, think that, okay, when I am 50, I want to still solve this problem, then you have your answer cut out. But I also want to break a myth that once you choose your career, that is the career for you, right? Can I ask the range of your age? I don't want to know your age, but what is your age range? And what age do you think you will retire at this time?
Probably 50.
Probably
Not
50,
more than
right?
that, yeah.
So you have 25 years of work ahead of you, right? I am in my 15th year of work. If I make a choice to switch careers today, I still have another career that I can do.
Chalo coding chalu kar do, sir.
Right? So it's never like hard and fast kar diya to shit now, this has been decision made for my life. There are so many people who choose careers, they realize 5 years down the career that I don't enjoy solving this problem. I thought I would, but hey, I was wrong, right? And start over, it's fine. It's absolutely fine. This is a very, very forgiving market. You can find a role, you can find an internship. Do an internship at the end of the 5th year if you think that you want to get into something that you don't know what it's about. It's absolutely fine, right? It's not like 10 years ago, 15 years ago where it was a taboo. Saying ki, "Arey yaar, engineering kar liya, MBA kar liya." Now she wants to quit her job to get into what? Music, right? Have you lost your mind? Musicians are earning more than me. I would like to be a musician today, right? Don't think about it as bucketing yourself that it's for life, right? Try something that attracts you right now, that interests you right now, that you think you will have the skills and the aptitude and the patience to do when you are 50. And if that doesn't work out, it's all right. It's okay. Don't pressure yourself into fitting into something that somebody else wants you to fit into.
Siddharth, absolute pleasure listening to you. Guys, a big round of applause, please. AltUni, which was launched about 20 months back. which is our alternative digital university where we help people get upskilled and we help them get ahead in their career. So if you're looking to get promoted, you're looking to transition from one career to another, or if you're just generally looking to be better at your job, there are a lot of things that you can look at AltUni. And we also have a new product that we are launching via this season's Conversations Cafe, which is Club AltUni, which is a unique closed network where you can sign up and essentially be abreast with what's happening in different domains, industries, and professions. And you get a chance to apply for various jobs that we curate for you. There are a lot of sessions that we are going to do. So there are at least 12 CXOs that we are going to get you to meet over the next few months. If you go on the AltUni website, you'll find Club AltUni. Currently, there is a wait list for this particular product, so you can apply for it.